Did you hit a home run then? He goes, all right. Okay, I can't always call my shots, but I'll try and hit a home run for you. He goes, no, I need a home run. He goes, all right, kid, yeah, I'll hit a home run. He goes, could you eat a hot dog?
There we go.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Could you eat 10 hot dogs for me and drink 7 beers? And could you hop on one leg and bring some candy? Joking.
Keep it on audio for a second.
Okay.
So we are live streaming currently, but get to an unlisted live stream.
Okay.
So Brian, say something nice.
It's been a beautiful day today. It actually is a beautiful day today.
We're all together.
I had one of my contractors that I do business with called me, asked me if he woke me up. This was like at 8:30 in the morning.
You've been up
I've already,
since 6, right?
no, I've been up since 5. I've already set up 3 jobs. I've done 2 inspections. I had a meeting with a building official, and I was on my way down here. And he says, I didn't get you up, did I? I said, no, trust me, you, Eric, you didn't get me up. That's not the, that's the problem.
Amazing, Brian? You did all of that without even using the internet.
So is your phone?
Yeah, that's you're right. You're right. All that without the internet.
For everybody?
Yes. I have a new employee that I'm trying to teach how to use a map.
Yeah.
Because he's got his GPS. And the other day he routed himself on his projects. And I said, well, you wasted about 2 hours. He says, no, but I used my GPS. And I said, yeah. And it had you going all over the place. If you'd used your map, it would and it would have been so much easier. And I showed him, and he says, oh, yeah, I see what you mean. I said, that's why you got to learn to use a map. The GPS only gets you halfway there.
And if it's the right there.
And it's if it's that too.
Right.
Yeah.
He talks to me.
But it told me to the left.
That's right.
Everything's good? Cool.
Okay.
All right, so we are live.
Live streaming.
Okay.
So let's see, we'll try this out. So welcome to We Are the Remedy, where each week we highlight a person from the community who embodies the idea of people helping people. Our goal is to highlight the good news and put out there in the world more good news for people to follow and be inspired to give back to their local community in one way or another. That was a great sentence. My name is Trevor Henley, and with me is Michael Pritchard, and today our guest is Brian Mcleran. There we go.
Hey.
Awesome.
Not bad for an intro, right?
That was awesome.
Soon
Did that well.
we'll get what is it?
The screen.
Teleprompter.
Yeah.
We'll be able to read into
Actually, you do it on a computer.
Yeah.
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 Or like a karaoke machine type thing.
But that might go somewhere else.
That would be great. Karaoke teleprompter.
Yeah, there you go.
Brian, many years in Rotary,
Yes.
helping people, lifting people up in the community, completely involved. What is it that you think that we need right now in the present circumstances of all the divisiveness and anger out there in the community that we're all seeing? I mean, everybody sees it. It's all over the media. But what do we need to do? How do we get back to a place that Rotary usually takes us in the meetings to just be about solutioneering and helping and seeing the suffering out there and doing something to alleviate it? How do we get there?
One of the things, and I have a good example for you, is engaging the students, the children themselves.
Right.
Just recently, and I'll say within the last couple of years, we established, it's like a Rotary Club for high school kids.
Rotaract.
Rotaract. Or actually, this is Interact.
Interact.
It's the one below the college level. So at Interact, we have a local school here.
Right.
It's St. Isabella's. They started an Interact Club. It's about 3 years old now, and they, with a little bit of encouragement, engage the community. And the things that they have done on their own in such a short period of time is really what it takes.
Give me an example of the projects they're working on.
One of the projects which they started on their own, and this really helps elderly people. They work with a rest home up in Petaluma, where they go in and they take the little iPod shuffles. So they raise money and they interview the people to find out how old they are, what type of music they like, just all this. It's a very simple process. Then what they do is the students program the iPod shuffles so that they have the music that these people enjoyed from their younger years. Now what it's done,
the brain, right?
It does. Well, what it has done is it started as a project 3 years ago, and they, by giving these people, it's like a relaxation. Right. It makes it so that they're more comfortable, right. They're less stressed, right. They're easier to take care of. Right. In the rest home, there's not all the commotion that there used to be, and now all the staff has embraced this, and they're supporting it, because these kids come in at least once a month, and they sit down with the elderly people. Wow. And so these are middle school kids that are engaging. 13. They're engaging the community, and they're now going to start the project at another rest home. Wow! And they came up with this all on their own.
This is like something that could be a great movie out there. Any of you young filmmakers who are out there, you picture that young kids, 11, 12, and 13, came up with the idea, went up, seeded the idea, and watched it grow and blossom and bloom. And now they're harvesting for the second. So let's think about this, how important it is. What did you notice in the kids that you were around that it did for them to watch it take root, an entrepreneurial kind of thing that Rotary's all about? What did you notice?
Well, what it does is it gets the kids, it organizes them in the school now to be anybody in this class. You're part of Interact. They have, I think, 77 kids, children that are now involved in this. Wow. And so they've got leadership that's being developed. They do fundraising. They come to different Rotary clubs to talk about their project. They've done presentations at our Rotary training for us as adults. They're teaching us now. And
what are you learning from? I mean, just
well, you know what it is with young students like this. Yeah. What you do is you give them the ability to make their own decisions, and you just see where it goes. Yeah. If you go in there and start telling them what to do,
over supervising,
it ruins it. Yeah. You just say, okay, what do you want to do? Yeah. What can we do to support you? Right. And they're off and running. They did.
Moms and dads, don't hover. Wow.
Yeah, it is.
You said 77?
There's 77 kids.
Just in St. Isabella's?
Just in St. Isabella's.
Wow.
There's 77 kids.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's all, I mean, it's put on by the kids, promoted by the kids, and the kids.
They manage everything. Yeah.
That's the key. You don't have to proselytize if you can attract. Yeah. Right? You don't have to go out and go, no, you want to join, They'll come if something positive and thoughtful and kind and evolving, and they're alleviating loneliness, they're alleviating lack of connectedness, and sometimes even in seniors that causes suffering. And with music and the stuff they're doing, sometimes dementia. I notice this when we perform in senior centers all the time. If you play music that's from them, they know every song, every word, and they reconnect, and it awakens the
It's therapy.
Yeah.
It's good therapy for them. It's good for the children. The other thing it's doing is they're taking these projects, and now their parents are learning about it, and they're supporting it. So it becomes more than just the children. Right. It's the children, it's their parents, it's the engagement with the elderly people. I mean, it serves in many levels.
Brian is a roofer. He doesn't just build houses, he builds homes. Yeah. Now, Robert Frost said, home is that place you go where they have to let you in, which is such a great line, right?
Yeah, it is.
And when you're building a home, it's different than building a house. Anybody can build a house, but building a home is somebody who joins Rotary and helps young people understand the importance. Because I'm a we have 3 generations in our home. I got a little Russian-Irish grandson, Bron Cosmos Dmitrovich Bakinin. He's half Irish. So, but just knowing. And then, I met this young man when he was in high school and he was on our PBS show called Saving Our Schools from Hate and Violence.
Yeah.
So the entrepreneurial spirit that paid for that was from C's Candies, and they were amazing. They gave us the money to film 2 episodes at both San Marin and San Rafael High. And I met, Trevor when he was just a kid. He was a junior in high school. And, look at all these years later, 20 years later, 1999 to 2019, he's still involved in the work because he connects to the importance of what it is we're doing. And he's in Rotary, and he travels all over the world, and he has a book about Rotaract where our physicians from Rotary go out and heal cleft palates and lips for youngsters all over the world.
The rotoplasty.
Yeah.
I actually have it over there. I forgot to grab it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually just looked on your website and I saw that photo from 1998. I was like, oh man, that was a long time ago. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And here's
Hold that up.
from the Rotoplast India. So
That's India,
I want to talk about this, but I also, going back to the Columbine videos and then going to 2008 was my very first year in Rotary. And you were a critical piece of my transformation in life because we went on that Project Amigo trip together.
Yes.
And I was just telling someone this morning, I remember sitting on the front of the bus because I was an adult and I was a chaperone, which was interesting for me. Being the adult.
Yeah.
And, sitting there and being present and being part of this experience where our high school kids are giving back to the local students in the villages of Colima. And I was like 500 students, I think, that we worked with. And then teaching them how to brush their teeth and giving them clothing and
haircuts.
Working with them in haircuts.
We gave them haircuts.
And I just remember going, wait, I had no idea that people didn't know how to brush their teeth. And I just remember the stat that we learned was, in just 6 years, the first 6 years, they had helped alleviate over 50% of the problems with dental hygiene just by teaching them how to brush their teeth. And I was just floored by that. And I remember it was my first year in Rotary, and I was just completely blown away. And I think, what is this, 2011? So 3 years later, we go on this Rotoplast mission. So you're very involved, and I also have to say thank you very much. Because of you, I was able to go on the Rotoplast mission, and I really appreciate that, because that was an experience to...
What did it teach you about yourself?
It was interesting because I learned in the middle of this mission about communicating without words and being able to be present with people that I can't really speak the language of, but we can still connect as humankind and we can still connect as human beings. And I remember when we started this, a lot of the interns there were saying, why are you guys helping these people? Why are you helping them? Like they're lower than dirt. It doesn't make sense. Like why are you helping them? Because the caste system was so prevalent. Right. I had no idea about that. And I said, I don't know any other answer than because we can. And by the end of it, the interns were, just the end of that 2-week trip, were working to get their stories, to get help and learn the local dialects of each of the different dialects that were spoken there to be able to give further need and help. And it was just amazing when you...
We at Rotary, we don't build walls. We don't have borders. We build bridges of compassion and connection to this human suffering that's out there. And when you lower those borders, you lower those walls and you connect. This isn't about, Rotary is international. Yeah, it started in Chicago with Paul Harris. But what it really is about, more than anything, is global connection. And if you can connect in your neighborhood, folks, you can connect globally, correct? Right? What does it teach you, Brian? What did it teach you when you first joined?
I joined Rotary because it was something that, when I was brought up, I was always told that, I wasn't told, it was a culture in my family to give back. And so when Rotary came in my direction, it just really fit. And the thing that I like doing, and if you look at all the things I've worked on, it's working with kids.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to change the world, you got to start with the kids.
Yeah.
And the kids do so well.
What did it do for you as a father and grandfather to make those connections?
Well, both of my children, who are adults now, have been on a Rotoplas trip with me.
Right.
And I think it moves you as a parent to see the compassion that your children have when they're working in a country like India, where these children would never have an opportunity to have these life-changing surgeries without the help.
Yeah.
And you're proud of your kids.
Yeah, because they see it. And there's no better way to give a sermon than a good example.
It is, you can show people pictures.
Right.
And you can talk about it, but being there and actually doing what it takes and holding a child makes all the difference in the world. And one of the things, and I've been on many, many trips.
Right.
One thing that never changes is how the mother reacts when she comes, when the child is given back to her after the child's been in post-op and is now ready, and the mother looks at the child and the deformities have all been corrected, which means this child is going to lead a normal life. The expression that these mothers have, no matter how many times you see it, it still is emotional.
And then to have your kids there to watch.
And then the kids involved.
Right.
The children involved.
And it's okay to cry, Brian, because tears that do not flow will make other organs.
It is. It brings tears to my eyes because
it's good.
I've really enjoyed it. And recently, with all the trips I've been on and with my children, my wife just went on a trip also. And she came back and appreciated and saw just how good it was.
When you see that kind of connectedness to kindness in lieu of the right now in the divisive world that we're living in, what do you want to say to people out there, Brian? What do you want to say to people about getting their kids involved early in things that are part of the solutioneering, things that are part of the kindness and compassion in the world? What do you say to the folks out there who are busy as keyboard activists protesting some angry thing that will be of no consequence 15 years from now, and you're showing your kids what you can do right now through Rotary?
If you get the kids involved, which is why I like working with children, the children then take it back to the adults.
They're the ambassadors.
They are. And one of the projects I did work on, this was at least 10 years ago, we were working on a sanitation and an education project in North Vietnam. Now, we had been trying to teach the adults, and we learned very quickly that teaching adults is extremely difficult. So what we did was we changed our focus, and we built these bathrooms in the school. So they had fresh water, and we had the septic system, so we controlled all the waste. And then we taught the children the relationship between washing your hands and good health and using a bathroom. And these were nice bathrooms to the standards of these communities.
Right.
The bathrooms were built as a cooperative project between us and the local villagers. So we had buy-in. The children then would take their parents and teach them about their bathrooms in their school. And within 3 years, all the kids now were going to school because they weren't getting sick.
Right. Typhoid.
There's all these different things that happen. The water's cleaner because they would bathe and they would do, they would use the water for just everything. And so they were developing a relationship, and it just changed the culture of this whole village.
You've seeded wellness in a community as part of Rotary.
It was, but we focused on the children.
Why do you think that's so important to do? And even now, in our culture now, if we're working with the kids to teach them like you're talking, to do it early, why is it important to start early doing that?
They just catch on. I was raised assuming that this is the way the world was. Because my parents were very generous, and this culture was in our family. Well, when I got out in the real world, I learned that it's not the way the world is, which didn't change things. We just continued doing it. And then the fit with Rotary was, it just worked very well. And the nice thing is whatever your passion is, you have the ability to do great things when you partner with other people.
Stop. I hope you heard that.
Yeah.
I hope you heard that, folks. That's what it's all about. You know what I love about you, Brian Mcleran?
No, I don't.
Everything. You know what you need to change about you?
Yeah,
Nothing. Right?
You mentioned actually in the other event that you gave a great quote about.
I will. And what it is Rotary gives ordinary people the opportunity to do extraordinary things. And that's when people say, what is it that you do?
Right.
What we do is we encourage that, and you're able to do freshwater projects in places that don't have water. One of the other Rotary projects that I worked on in Vietnam was we built an ICU in a cancer ward for children, because these children were getting tumors because of the Agent Orange that's in the soil. And these tumors, they would come to the hospital and they would operate, and a lot of times they'd amputate the eye, treat them with chemotherapy, and they'd go to this room to recover. And the recovery room was just beds with grass mats. There was nothing. And so Rotary put together a global grant, and we went back and we built a 12-bed ICU. And what it did is, before we were there, 90% of the children died because they couldn't monitor them. There was no oxygen. There was no way to maintain these kids.
Right.
By giving them the instruments and the equipment to do this. And one of the organizations that was extremely helpful was General Electric.
Right.
General Electric has within their budget where they support nonprofits.
Right.
We got the money together to get this project going. They donated all of the equipment for this project.
For the project.
For the project.
Because the real successes in the world aren't in corporate America and corporate world, global, international. They're not the people that love people. They're not the people, that love money and use people. They're the people that love people and use money. This is important. Why is it important to teach that to the global community as well? Which is what, we do at Rotary International. Right?
It's just getting involved.
Right.
It's just getting involved. And you can do it at so many levels.
At one of those kids, they might wind up being the president of Vietnam.
You say that. There was one young lady and I've been to Vietnam at least 5 times, 6 times, working on different projects. There was one young lady that was there when I was in Quy Nhon, and we were operating on her because she had very bad burns. And we were making it so that she could use her fingers on the hand that she had. Because one was burned off. And this young lady was being operated on. The next trip I went back, we operated on her again. We did a follow-up surgery. And then she came to the United States. Rotary brought her over. They fit her with the prosthesis. She learned English. She went back to Vietnam. And on my next trip over, she wasn't a patient, she was my translator. So this is a young lady who worked all the way through. And then when she knew we were coming back, she came down to where we were going, and she became a translator for us.
It's simple, isn't it?
It was. And this is when you say, what happens to these kids?
Yep.
They do great things.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you never know where a child goes once you've operated on it. You know you've changed their lives.
But what did it do for you as a Rotarian to watch that transformation?
It's extremely satisfying. You know,
more than anything, right?
Yeah, and you know, with all the
soul-filling
bad things that are happening in the world, if you do good things, even on a very small level, it does. It changes people.
because it changes you first, and that's where the real change comes from.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing you learned by doing all this stuff, Brian? And I want to be personally,
that's a
as
tough
your neighbor.
question.
I know, but you know what? You're a wise man.
Yeah.
You're not just smart.
Yeah.
You're smart. You're wise.
It gives you a certain amount of satisfaction, gives you a purpose in life.
Right. And having your family involved, right?
Everybody in my family.
Right. In the process of watching it all unfold.
My daughter, my son-in-law, my son, my wife, everybody.
Your family's grown from your immediate family to an international family. I mean, I know you have relationships with people all across the world.
Yeah.
The work and involvement.
Yeah. We work on projects.
And the State Department struggles to build relationships, right?
Yeah, you just got to get down there, and you can't go in.
Why do you have to work at that level?
Well, you can't go in and tell somebody what you're going to do for them.
Right.
What you have to do is ask. It's like when we did the bathrooms, the urinals, and the school buildings in North Vietnam. We went to the village, and we asked them what they needed, and they told us. They're very honest with us, and we had a very successful project because we worked with them with what they asked for.
And just giving them the wellness of not getting typhus or cholera or dehydration from the insanitary circumstances, this long-term effort.
Well, it's not just that. It makes it, the children can't go to school if they're sick. Right. They can't go to school if they're not healthy. So by creating this atmosphere of health within the community, it educates the children, and it makes it so that they have the opportunity to better themselves.
They're long-term learning for the next generation and the next generation.
It does.
And the next generation.
And once you teach them this, the whole village is healthier.
Right.
It's not just the children. It affects everybody. And it's education.
It's not a hand out.
No.
It's a hand up.
It is, but they have buy-in.
Yeah.
They have to work at it. We provide.
How do you measure that? How do you measure that?
It's, by going back 2 years later and seeing how it really changed things. Yeah, we did, my Rotary Club did its first international project when I became president of our club.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had traveled to Project Amigo in Mexico, and this was 25 years ago.
Yeah, a little bit.
So a little bit, okay. You were a little younger then. And I'm down there, and I was looking for something to do.
Right.
And I found this project in this village. I think it's outside of, not far from Colima. Yeah. In fact, it's about 2 hours by. It was in Piwamo. Okay. So we raised $1,100. Our Rotary Club did, and did a grant to get sewing machines for this village. Right. And we bought 6 machines, and we had a budget to buy materials, to have a teacher, an instructor come in, and so they could learn how to make garments. And what they started doing was making uniforms for the children, for the ones that couldn't afford it. This was the local Rotary Club in Piwamo. So they made uniforms. They started making blouses for women. Wow. And about 3 years ago, we did a new grant to get new machines, because this has now become, the village is now known for the beautiful garments they make, which they sell at the market. That's awesome. And it's created a whole economy. And it all started because of the NAFTA treaty. Right. The NAFTA treaty wiped out their agricultural base in this one community. Right. And so this was an alternative. Right. It started with $1,100. That was
$100 spent correctly. Right. Seeds entrepreneurship, seeds that idea of gaining and being responsible for your own marketing, and the impact of the community is long term.
Yeah, and it's 2 Rotary Clubs working together. They had the need, we raised the money, we did a grant with them, and it transformed the village.
As you and other Rotarians and other women and men in Rotary, and yourself as well, Trevor, as you bless others, what do you notice that it does for you in your life in local community and in local life and with your kids? What do you notice that when you're building a better world, a safer world, a more well world, you know, because I is illness, but we is wellness. What does it do for you?
It's a good question.
So I tell a simple little story, which is the other day, I was at a friend's 2-year-old birthday party.
Right.
And for me, we were my kid is 3, his name is Cole, and we were playing in the bouncy house.
Right.
And these kids fell into the side of the bouncy house and it collapsed. And my 2.5, 3-year-old ran over to the side of it and tried to push it up and tried to help them. Wow. And for me, I went, I'm done. I mean, I'm set as a parent, like I'm doing good. But it's because of being able to give back to the community, having the opportunity to get involved with other like-minded people, that we embody it. And
it's in the DNA then.
And you never know who you're going to impact and whose life it's going to change. And that's...
When it becomes cultural, it becomes something that's natural.
Yeah.
And it's not like you have to think about doing this. It just comes naturally. You see an opportunity.
You and I, we grew up in a Frank Capra, Norman Rockwell world, 1950s and 60s in America. Right?
Yeah.
How do we get us back there to where we're connected to that greater good of inspired leadership, kindness, compassion, connectedness to the greater good of community with all of this stuff that you see because of the technology?
Do you know a real simple thing? And we all did this when we were kids.
Yeah.
We always sat down as a family and had dinner together.
Right.
With you.
We always had people that were welcome. Right. If we had friends, everybody was welcome at the table. And
simple, isn't it?
It was, but I'm just saying, if you want to get down to the real nuts and bolts, we didn't have a TV on.
Right.
We didn't have any distractions.
No iPhone.
No distractions.
We're having a conversation.
We do. And you respected everybody else at the table.
Right.
And you learned. And if you got in trouble, you got in trouble. But, you know, if you're doing good things, but it was a time for the family to be together. And I think that makes a big difference. And I think that's something that's being lost.
Calm it down. Get together in smaller groups, in family and in community where you're connected to the greater good.
Yeah.
And
Rotary is like a large family.
Right.
When you join, it's a family that no matter where you go, and I've traveled and been, and I've visited many, many clubs.
Sure.
And we were visiting a club when I was on vacation up at Yosemite. I had to drive over an hour to get to this club in Groveland. And Groveland, everybody drives through it to get there, okay? To get to Yosemite, you got to go through Groveland.
Yeah, I know.
Well, there's a Rotary Club, a breakfast club that meets there. And I was going, and I had asked my wife if she wanted to go. Well, we had to get up at 5 to be there by 7. Which for me is pretty normal.
Yeah.
I get up at 5 anyway. It's even on vacation. So my wife went with me, and we were sitting next to this lady, and she was the head ranger for Yosemite.
Wow.
And she was the member of the club, just like anybody else. And so she invited us to her office in Yosemite, and we went there, and my wife and the two of them got along great together. And she found out that my wife was a school teacher. So the lady from Yosemite and the ranger gave her these posters that the Forest Service puts out that have all the birds, the ferns, all the different, there was like a dozen posters that were all focused on different things like animals and plants, but they were very nicely done. My wife had them all laminated and put them up in her classroom. They now become a teaching thing. And she got that because the lady, the ranger, they embraced each other, got along great, and that's what happens in Rotary. It's a simple thing.
This is the importance of local level community involvement. Right?
And you visit clubs.
Local level, we got to wrap it up soon, but tell me a little bit about the dictionary, dude.
Oh, it's been 12 years. We were at a dinner, this is how it all started.
Sure.
And there was a high school teacher that was there, and the teacher was talking about the students coming in not knowing how to write sentences. They didn't know how to do paragraphs. There was this whole learning thing that was becoming a problem.
And not happening.
It's not happening at all. Or it was difficult.
Right.
Because not all the kids are like that, but some of them are.
Yeah.
And so we started talking about it, and the idea came up to give dictionaries to students. Well, okay, that in itself needs to be ironed out. How do you do this? So my wife is a first grade teacher.
Right.
And so she's great friends with Mary Jane Burke.
Right.
County schools. So I called up Mary Jane and I said, how do I do this? She put me in touch with 2 or 3 third grade teachers. So we then we've got about 10 dictionaries. I went out and bought all different kinds. And I went to the teachers and I said, look, we're thinking about doing a project. If we could give you any dictionary you wanted for school, which one of these would you like to have? And they picked out a dictionary. And as we started to research it, we found out that there was another Rotary Club in Sonoma that was doing this project. So I engaged them. We then took it to the next level, put it out to the whole district. Wow. And we have been giving away 9,000 dictionaries for the last 12 years to all the third graders in Marin, San Francisco, and San Mateo. It's a huge project, and I have been nicknamed the dictionary dude because well, it is, and I engage the children, and we give the dictionaries out, and it's a literacy project. It gets Rotary into the schools, which is educational,
right? So
they learn about us.
Yeah.
And then the dictionaries go home for the students. And one of the things that we emphasize when we give the dictionaries out is the 4-way test, the ethics of Rotary. Right. And that's in the dictionary, so we discuss that.
Tell them what those are.
I'll try and do it right.
You can do it.
It's, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and
trust,
better friendship?
Oh, better friendship, yeah.
And is it beneficial to all concerned? I may have repeated.
Yeah.
I'm close.
No,
I should know.
No, you did good. Because
I should know.
This is the key, folks.
Yeah.
The key. If you want to talk about unsung treasures in the community, Rotary is one of them. And what happens is because we don't proselytize, you don't see us with a PR group going out and talking. We're doers, not talkers, and the community needs the unsung treasures in our community and the hearts of kids from different backgrounds being connected to. If you want to build a better world, build a better America, because it's a land of immigrants. And if you want a better America, build a better community. And if you want a better community, build a better human being, start with yourself first. Start with yourself first. Being connected, right?
Yeah. With your family.
Right. Then the family, and then build those relationships and friendships and the companionship for those who are lonely and the isolates out there in the community. What keeps us safe and well are the friendships. I always tell little kids the best ship to sail on is friendship. But if we know that in Britain right now, they have a whole minister level position in the cabinet called the Minister of Loneliness. And the answer is why. We need to do this. And Rotary is actually the medicine for a better world.
So Brian, how can someone get in touch with either you or Rotary or one of the, how many clubs that are in Marin?
There are 17 clubs in Marin. There's 49 in our district. And there's many, many different ways.
It's not including Interact or
No,
Rotaract.
that's just Rotary clubs.
Kids, yeah.
You can look it up on the internet. We're there. And there's plenty of contact out there. Once you go to the internet, it'll tell you where the clubs are, where they meet, and it actually gives you contact information for all the presidents of the clubs.
Nice.
What do you say to young people out there looking for something to be connected to? What do you say to them? And I'm not talking about kids now. I'm just talking about young adults who we need to bring into this because they've distanced themselves because we're graying. And a lot of times, folks your age, we need this. You know,
Younger, I'll say younger people, young professionals.
Right.
A lot of them are looking for a way to give back.
Right.
And when they make the connection, and this is really what Rotary needs to do, is to be able to engage these younger people and give them the flexibility and the format that works for them. It's hard for some people to go to lunch every Tuesday. Their professional life doesn't allow it. Their family life doesn't allow it. I was thinking the other day before I came over here, I joined Rotary when I was in my 30s, and that was unusual. I was the youngest member of my club back then.
I know this.
Yeah.
When I joined Rotary Terra Linda, I think I was 25.
Yeah. Well, I was in my mid-30s, and I was the youngest member by years.
Right.
But I'm a businessman, and my goal was to give back.
Right.
And I made time to do it.
Right.
It wasn't easy in the beginning. Younger people have there's a club, it's called the Raffel Evening.
Right.
The average age of that club is 33.
Wow, good.
I'm the old one now.
Yeah, you're the older one now. Yeah, and as a side note, I've been involved in Rotary for 25 years. My wife has traveled with me. She knows a great deal about Rotary. Well, my daughter is a member of that club.
Wow.
So my wife went to their meeting once and had such a good time that she went and joined my daughter's club because it's a younger group. And even though she's actually closer to my age, she engages, she gets involved, and a couple of other people that are closer to her age that like to engage that have joined that club also. And so there's a group of them that I will say are more well-seasoned. They've been around longer. They have more experience, are now members of that club, which is bringing a certain amount of education. So it's there.
You're
Thank
a good
you.
man, Brian.
It's good to see you, too.
You too, Mike.
Always nice.
Well, thank you, Brian, for
good to see you, too.
people helping people. And I know you've inspired me throughout the years of being in Rotary. And I thank you for all that you do and all that goes unsaid.
Thank you for inviting me today.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay? Always.
Well, thank you again for joining us at We Are the Remedy. I like that. I like that. And we'll see you next week. Go out there, smile, and share some stories of people helping people. Now, it may or may not be disconnected from but, that's part of the fun. Yeah, right? All right. Are you guys ready to record?
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Oh, it's nice to see you.
Brian,
Yeah.
look at me.
Yeah. I had dinner with my brother last night.
Did you?
Ole. Yeah, Ole. He looks so much like Santa Claus now.